Hello everybody, welcome to today's economic report. And in this video I will be talking a little bit about what's going on within the Federal Reserve System, the fiat money system, and some Webbot predictions. Before I start, I'd like to let everybody know that if you're watching this video the day it comes out or sometime on Sunday, that I will be in the AU and AG chat room on Paul Talk. If you are not familiar with how to get there, please check the blog, the silverlog.blogspot, and that will help you out. I'll be on there 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific on Sunday. Alright, so let's get started. Question is, when's this collapse going to happen? There's been a lot of people going through the fundamentals saying the economy is going to falter, the dollar's going to die, but I don't see it, many people will state. And the way I see this as, it's collapsing now. It's been in a process for quite a few years, even before the housing bubble in the year 2007. Now, as far as the major chaotic events where either dollars are not traded or they are inflated so high, I would be looking more towards 2012. After all, there's a lot of prophecies going on about that year. So I'm going to put two and two together, and logic would seem that if this prophecy is real with a lot of these symptoms coming together, that most likely that would be the year that a lot of stuff is going to happen. And right now you're hearing the Federal Reserve talking a lot about quantitative easing. What a beautiful word that is. Quantitative easing. Yeah, a little bit of extra money here and there just to ease the pain that we have. It's almost as if you have real physical pain. You can quantitative ease that by taking some morphine or OxyContin, and I guess you take a little more and more. But the thing is, as the levels that you take get extreme, that's when a lot of the problems can occur. For example, if I were to take this air cleaner, this Lysol air cleaner, there's a bad smell. I'm not going to spray it here, but if you spray it once or twice, it's going to help out. But if it gets so bad that you have to keep on spraying these chemicals, you know it's not going to work out. Same thing can be said here too. Now on Friday, Ben Bernanke spoke in the morning, and what he said was that they will take action if the economy falters. Now, what does the Federal Reserve do? What do they do to take action? What can they do to help out? Or what do they do, period? Well, they can change interest rates to bring them up and down, and there's nothing they can do to help out. They've tried lowering the interest rates, and they've been pretty much close to zero for quite a while now. They can create whatever money, but these are the things that do not help out. Ben Bernanke said that if the economy falters, that they will consider making another large-scale purchase of securities, which are stocks, bonds, treasuries, that sort of deal there. And when you look at that, that means they pretty much just create a whole bunch of physical money and buy securities. If that helps out, then I'm literally clueless. And I don't know, it just seems as if they try to make people clueless, and they've done a good job. Only problem is they have to keep them and maintain them to the cluelessness factor. And that's, I think, where they're not going to be able to succeed. And he also says that the economy is likely to pick up next year. That's an interesting statement, because in 2008, likely not to have a recession. Summer recovery of 2008. Jobless recovery. These are the likely things they say are going to happen. But not only that, he says, quote, remains vulnerable to unexpected developments. Unexpected. Now, the interesting thing about the word unexpected is I could say, you know what, I expect Team Canada to go down to the United States and beat the United States in a baseball game. And I expect that to happen. But it's not going to happen, even though I expected it to. It ain't going to happen. So he may expect it, or he may say that's going to be the case, but obviously that's not going to be. Now, getting out of the dollar is the big thing right now. And I've been talking about this for quite some time. And it's not just getting into the assets like gold and silver. And you might want to look at, well, what kind of residence or real estate are you going to need for shelter? What kind of education do you need, meaning what kind of books? A lot of this type of stuff you can print off the internet as far as getting a lot of these documents that you need. And food, of course. Food is really big. I'll talk later on about the food shortages when I talk about the Webbot project. And as far as gold and silver, people are stating, well, you know what? Gold and silver ain't going to work, because when people are hungry, they're not going to be wanting gold and silver. Which, to me, doesn't make sense. Not at all. And the reason why you want to have those physical assets, you can't buy all the food that you need for the next 5 years today or this month. It can't be done. Yes, there is a lot of food that can be purchased that can work in the years 2011, 2012, 2013, and so on. But as far as a lot of the fresh foods are concerned, fresh meats, fresh eggs, breads, milks, that kind of stuff, you need to get them when they're fresh, which means that's where gold and silver can work out. And not only that, but a lot of times you go through unexpected stuff in life. You don't know what kind of purchases you may need in future years, which is a reason why I consider it to be a positive asset along the way. And as far as food, what can you do to grow your own food, whether it be through gardening, whether it be through any type of feed, the cattle, chickens, hogs, that sort of deal there. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to put a gold chart on the screen. Here we are. This is a 1 year chart, meaning each candle on this chart represents 1 year. And we can see there's a lot of green candles going up to the top. And what each one of these has since year 2002 is a higher low from the previous year, a higher high from the previous year, and a higher close from the previous year. You can see the stats on the bottom of the screen. So far this year, we're up over 30% with our current low than we were from our previous one. And we're only up 3% right now from our previous high. So therefore, as long as we can close above 1100 this year and hold above like 800 and something, we're going to keep that pattern of higher highs and higher lows and higher closes. And that's because the manipulation that was done within the metals and the quantitative easing, if you will, within the stock market and all of this type of stuff in the gold market. Alrighty, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk a little bit about this Webbot report. I went on to halfpasthuman.com and I bought their previous report. It's like cheap. It's only $10. So it didn't cost me much. And if you have the recent report that came out on August the 15th, I will go through the different pages. I'm going to start off with page 2, and it's just a disclaimer. The disclaimer says, this forecast is real. A person would still be an idiot to make decisions based solely on their interpretation of their interpretation of strange data patterns. Universe rewards thinking. Everyone should try it for themselves at least once, and that would be a good time. So now I'm going to do is scroll down to page 5. And on page 5 it says, within the planetary diaspora, scattering of the people, subsets, we have growth for a number of newly visible causes of the diaspora within planetary mind control media. The data sets indicates that the food shortages, which are quite real, are pressing upon planetary populations are also going to be used as reasons that will be proffered by the mainstream and controlled owned media for parts of the pending population shifts. While it may be thought that the powers that be are better served by garrisoning the populaces as a control mechanism, this is not really the case. The powers that be and their power-sucking minions, aka politicians, pretty people, are actually interestingly in control as the rate of perceived threatening chaos rises, and there is nothing like a good mass herding to raise stress and their chaos fear feelings. The forecast food shortages language is now showing up globally as the planet moves through the last summer northern hemisphere 2010 and towards fall. The food shortages language will begin to shift as we pass the September equinox into language about the food shortage existence. That is to say that the language seen in the mainstream mind control media will shift from forecasts about food shortages to reports of effects of food shortages. The linguistics around the food shortage aspect sets include its, let me hang on a second, I've got to scroll this page down. Its supporting subsets are all either directly in support of or cross-linked over to the sudden catastrophic climate change subset. Nothing that's sudden is relative to mass global human consciousness. In this context, the pending next phase of the climate change will appear to be both sudden and catastrophic. This is the context of catastrophic, is also very long in duration. We have subsets that form in the model space forecasting language to appear in fall of 2010 that are indicated to still be existent a year later in fall of 2011. Further, these data sets are extensively cross-linked internally within the global population subset, as well as externally over the Terra and Space Goatfarts entities. It's one of their code names, if you will. And in all the cases, determination linguistics are also still existent in fall of 2011, and at that time, the sudden catastrophic climate change subset, along with the food shortages, is in support for the continuing effects of diaspora globally. And other linguistic sets, the data suggests that populations that are displaced. So basically, what they are saying is the food shortages are real. And if you look at the current trends which form future events, someone says that, then we can see that we look at the current trends that we have within our agriculture itself, that it's really not a surprise that we are going through these food shortages right now. So next up, I'm going to go on to page number 6, which is the bottom of the screen. Okay, page 6. There are a number of growing linguistic sets within the longer-term data occurring which suggest that the winter northern hemisphere of 2011-2012 will begin in late summer or in late July of 2011 and continue at least through the following year of July 2012. These data sets would seem to be forecasting snow in the summer, the northern hemisphere, like where I live, in Canada, Russia, that type of deal there. That continues, albeit sporadically, at least through July of 2012. The data sets would seem to be indicating that the ice age actually begins in a minor sense this year, 2010, in the fall northern hemisphere, with the extraordinary active with freak storm conditions, which are visible and destructive new weather climate patterns. These patterns are not only the precursor to sudden climate change for 2011, but also will be unsettling mentally as the planetary populace tries to cope with the erratic and unseasonable climate manifestations. Again, these climate shifts of 2010 will exacerbate, and the increased food shortages and global agriculture and oceanic harvest go into negative production. And if we look at the weather on a global massive scale that we have today, whether it be in any of the continents, North America, South America, Europe, Asia, Australia, I'm probably missing one, Africa, there is a lot of big changes, and they're stating it's going to be a catastrophic, massive change. And right now, I mean, these prophecies that I remember watching on videos and reading in 2007, a lot of them are majorly coming through, and the weather ones are coming through the biggest. So now I'm going to go down to the bottom of page 14, and what do we... Okay. The tipping point period. And I'm going to let you know what a tipping point is. A tipping point is when something big happens really fast that instantly makes a major change. Where a turning point is something that is very gradual that you will notice well after the fact. AKA 911 was a tipping point. The tipping point period from November the 8th through the 11th, and then the subsequent multiple months of release of emotional tension language, have distinct US of A centered spread patterns in which change initiated within the whole of model space, starting to the tip of these 4 days appear to begin within the populist US of A entity. While difficult to determine precisely where the tip of model space begins, the spread is easily discerned. The emotional tension values reach a peak early on November the 8th and hold that level of both intensity and duration, as well as a number of other values through the next 4 days and 6 hours. Within that time period, the tip is begun, and by the end of it, the spread rapidly overtakes all of model space. As a result of the tipping point, and indicated to appear over the subsequent 2+ months, a War Powers Act or fake law, pre-written, pre-agreed upon law, will be laid upon the populace of the US of A, in which government, as directed by Israeli agents, aka dual citizens loyal first to Israel and working for, paid by the American government, will be given dictatorship powers. WPA, that is, for War Powers Act, for the duration of the new war. The data sets indicate that the long-feared boogaboo of martial law will not be necessary, nor will martial law be invoked, as there will be no need for such a crude approach given the compliance of the whores in Congress. That's what it says, whores in Congress, and the other political class minions, appointed civil servants. While there are some small level of indicators for the American elections on November the 2nd to be disputed and claimed invalid, the tipping point period would seem to rule out any effective challenge to the spurious results. Not that it matters, the data show that the conservatives and the fundamentalist religionists will be upset and frowning at the mouth due to the visible vote fraud. So that's basically talking about the big changes that are going to occur on the tipping point, some big event on the second week of November. And the final part of the Webbot that I'm going to read is page 22, where it talks about the markets. And it says, by the time the longer-term data sets forecast linguistics will begin to emerge in early to mid-December 2010, the static or beginning view of model space suggests that the great crash of the American financial empire will have occurred. This is to say that the longer-term data sets begin in December 2010, but do so against the initial starting state in which the last of the short-term data left model space. The beginning state forecast linguistics within the market entity states off with gold, silver, having had something of an escalator ride up, rapid steps higher, relative to the currencies of the planet, due to paper debt systems becoming unstable. The unstable paper debt systems language suggests that before the American elections of November, there had been at least 3 unhinging episodes which had produced the retching, puking, nausea forecast in previous shape reports. These episodes of fiscal gastric distress, according to the initial state of the market's entity, had resulted in the unhinging of the precious metals, mostly gold and silver, but others as well, from the paper chains that had previously provided leverage and control over the metal markets. The 3 Unhinging episodes are the temporal markers for the appearance of the panic to possess gold and silver language that the longer term values are forecasting will be dominant background theme across 2011. The progression of the market entities along with model space through even the early days of 2011 shows rapid growth in several dozen contexts that relate to the precious metals. These include scandals becoming visible and concerning delivery of paper control contracts that had been used to depress the prices and interest in gold and silver and other precious metals. Further, the data suggests that military demands for silver as strategic metal, ED note, see Space Goat Farts entry discussion for more on the theme, will further escalate the already pressing silver shortage. There are several subsets that appear in the market entity as model space is progressed through the early days of 2011. The detail sets are suggesting that language around war and end of war will seriously impact the life existence of the markets themselves. The idea bubbling up from the details over the first 2 quarters of 2011 suggests that war costs and direct impacts from war will so adversely impact the markets that the data is forecasting language about disruptions and disappearances of funds that will shut down the market systems. These data sets are also supported by aspect attributes within the populist US of A subsets that indicate that government will be in such a state of panic over the aberrations of the systems that a political stooge of the powers that be and a member of the club will be rapidly promoted to take charge of the new crises. And there's more within the markets on the Webbot project. It's, how long of a report is it? It's 45 pages, and it's $10, so it's not that much. And Cliff High, George they to me have done an amazing job that I'm honored to help out by periodically coming on there and buying their reports, because it's like only $10. To me, that's a good business strategy to have your products or services available at prices that people are able to afford. Alright, so I'm going to end this video at that. We'll see if this November event comes into play. A lot of what they say, the timing can be exceptionally off, and I know exactly what that means because that's my life story. Almost everything that I predict happens much sooner or later than I expect. But when we take a look at the actual current trends of things, we got to work with the natural law. And the natural law of creating the money system, the economy, the way that they do, to me only indicates that something is going to have to give. And as it was said here, as people start to understand what's going on, the minions, if you will, then as people wake up, that means there's less that they are able to do. So I'd like to thank you for watching this somewhat long video. And if you happen to come across this video before Sunday evening, then come on to the Paltalk Seed chat room, and I will be there talking about silver, gold, and the economy, that kind of stuff there. If you got a microphone, come on in and say what you have to say. Thank you for watching, and have yourself a magnificent day. Bye-bye.